Welcome back to NutraPreneur, where we unravel the transformative narratives shaping the nutraceutical world. I'm Bethany, your host, and today we're in for a treat as we delve into the realm of consumer-centric innovation. Joining us is Peter Wennstrom, the esteemed founder and expert consultant of HMT, which is short for Healthy Marketing Team. With over 3 decades of experience in nutrition, health, and wellness, Peter is revolutionizing how we approach brand management in this ever-evolving industry. So thank you for joining us for today's episode, Peter.
Thank you, Bethany. It's a pleasure to be invited.
Yeah, so first, I would love for you to share your journey and how you found yourself at the helm of Healthy Marketing Team, which is truly a pioneer in nutrition and wellness brand consultancy.
Well, it actually started my career started in the advertising industry. I was working in the 90s, for example, in Bates, Europe, sort of in a European multinational agency. And we had clients in food and pharma. So I had the opportunity to see how consumers sort of perceived health in relation to food and health in relation to medicine. And then somewhere early 90s, I was sort of approached by companies who were doing something called functional food. And that was like this new idea that you added sort of scientifically proven ingredients to the food product, and then suddenly became healthier. And it was quite interesting then to see how the stakeholders for that new idea of functional food were very science-driven. So I started to work with the first functional food products, starting here in Sweden, and then gradually sort of widening the geographic scope. But it was very clear that the science focus then was a bit of a problem. So I tried to apply the branding knowledge I had then from international, let's say, from the advertising agency. And with that, I started then to develop what later the FourFactors model, which basically meant that I had to explain how a consumer works for a professor. And then basically and then the other way around, how do you then communicate science to consumers? So it was sort of that I needed to start to create like a hybrid model in order to create something that worked for the marketing of functional foods. Because at the time, in the early 90s and late 80s, there were sort of many big companies like Nestle, Novartis, and others who pioneered and ventured out into functional foods, because it was an appealing territory because there was high margins to normal food products. And the fact was, they failed brutally. So realizing there was actually something wrong with the models they applied. I mean, they were intelligent companies, but something were obviously wrong with the models. So then realizing, yes, there's actually a territory between food and pharma. And that was sort of, in a way, the starting point. And on my journey, because I had then sort of created my own consultancy, and then on my journey, I met with DesignBridge, sort of a London-based brand design agency. And we sort of teamed up in the ambition to actually connect strategy to brand execution. So we started Healthy Marketing in London in 2007. And we partnered, and we basically split up in 2011. But that was the starting point. So then sort of found myself at the helm of Healthy Marketing Team, because that was the name we sort of brainstormed about. How do we sort of position a branding company in that area? So we became the Healthy Marketing Team.
Yeah, that's really neat. And you mentioned the FourFactors. So the Healthy Marketing Team is known for its FourFactors brand acceleration system. So can you explain to us how this system, born from years of global experience, shapes the way you support your clients in FMCG, functional foods, dietary supplements, and even more?
Well, it actually started then way back with the professors and the other stakeholders in functional foods. What I basically stated, what I felt was very obvious coming from the advertising industry and the branding industry, but that was almost controversial in these scientific circles. I said the value chain starts in the mind of the consumer at the point of purchase. And then the FourFactors, then I started to develop that based on research and observations. what are the decision factors? What are the things that go through the mind of the consumer at the point of purchase? And then it was quite clear that there are sort of 4 key factors. I need the product, I accept the ingredient, I understand the benefit, and I trust the brand. So, and then you can elaborate, and there are more questions connected to those, but that's the key. So, and you know that a purchase decision takes a couple of seconds if you recognize the brand. It's a couple of more seconds if you don't. But you disqualify a product very quickly if you don't get those 4 factors right. So that was the starting point of the 4 factors. And then as this developed, I then wrote what is called the Food and Health Marketing Handbook together with Julian Mellentine from New Nutrition Business. And it was sort of sponsored by Tetra Pak, who was then sort of stakeholder in nutrition, because they wanted to bring, let's say, consumer value to the consumers or to the customers of their Tetra Pak packaging. So in that context, I also brought in what I call the life cycle model, the understanding of how does innovation sort of diffuse from the technology stakeholder, early innovators, into the, let's say, early adopters and early mass market and late mass market. And that then became what is now known as the FourFactors brand acceleration system. And you can say it's basically sort of a navigation system for innovation, where you can understand sort of where are the trends in the marketplace, where are you playing with your brand in your category, and where are your consumers and how to position your brand. So it becomes like sort of multi-layered model for basically sort of positioning brands, analyzing trends, etc. And it's that system has now been on the road since the early 2000s. And we carried this both as a wallpaper and in other ways digitally into over 60 countries across the globe, in cooperation with big companies who then partner with us in the training around using the FourFactors to train their sort of teams on how to understand how consumers perceive nutrition, health, and wellness.
Yeah, that's great. I've been in so many marketing brainstorming sessions where, the brands, you ask, well, what are consumers looking for? And they all kind of stare at each other like, I'm not sure. And so, I think being able to really educate and train these brands on what consumers really are looking for is really important. And, I'd say your mission at the Healthy Marketing Team revolves around providing expert guidance in the intricate global realm of health and wellness. Can you elaborate on how you approach this mission and what sets your consultancy apart?
Well, one thing that has been with us already from the start is that we are actually working with change makers, with sort of change agents. Already, the early days of functional foods it was about bringing health into the marketplace, and then it was a niche. So you actually had to fight. It was like an uphill battle to bring that in. And so already from the start, we work with change makers, people who want to bring about change in the marketplace. And it could mean that you actually need to fight against regulatory bodies. You have the EFSA in Sweden, you have the FDA in the US, and they were actually trying to block the road for healthier foods. So that has been us in our DNA from the start. And that's why we have as our mission statement, we create change together with our clients. Because it is our clients who are the game changers. They're the ones who are driving change. They just have to support them. Happy supporters, give them the tools. And now then in the early 2010s, sustainability started to become that new thing that entrepreneurial, let's say pilot companies started to bring sustainability to the market. And Oatly was one of the first that we worked with already in 2012. And then they were change makers. They wanted to change the world. And so that was also then, so sustainability became the next thing. So health and sustainability are things that we want to bring to the market. And there are barriers for this. It could be consumer disbelief. It could be regulatory bodies, could be other things. So it does mean that you need to be smart, you need to have good sort of systems, and you need to create strong alignment within your client so that they believe in what they do and they can be successful with what they do.
Yeah, and you've said it once before already, but you really emphasize that value chain starts in the mind of the consumer. So could you explain the significance of this insight and how it drives your strategies for clients in the health and wellness industry?
Well, because it's fundamental, and that you need to understand who is your target consumer. Very often not often, sometimes you can say, yeah, the consumer. But there is not one consumer. And the understanding of consumer segmentation along the life cycle of innovation, from science technology to the late mass market, is so critical for the launch and development of an ingredient or a brand. Because if you go wrong, you're dead. So it does mean that you need to understand who are the first consumers for your brand, who are the second consumers. And you also need to understand very clearly, where is your brand playing? So if you're like a Heinz ketchup, then you know, yes, you are already in the late mass market. But if you're an Oatly, then yes, you're still with the early adopters, people who bond with let's say, the planetary activism, etc. So it means those brands, they cannot change place. Same thing if you start to launch something that's sort of medically good for your heart health. Then you're in a much more medical space. And realizing those, or for example, if you launch something for convenience, then you're another space. And to realize those playing fields, and those playing fields are sort of very clearly set out. There's a playing field for medical brands, the playing field for lifestyle brands, for early adopters, believers. There's a playing field for solution-driven brands for the early mass market, and there's a playing field for the traditional brands for the late mass market. So it's almost like there's a rule book out there, and you can just ask any consumer. They're pretty quick in sort of telling you where a brand lives. And that also goes back to the definition of the brand. A brand is something that lives in the mind of the consumer. So a company doesn't own their brand. They can own the trademark, the logo, the name, but the brand is owned by the consumer. And that's the rule of the game. And that's why when it goes wrong, it goes totally wrong, because you haven't understood how the consumer see your brand, or how you can get into the mind of the consumer. So it's critical.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. I've never really thought of it that way, where the consumers are the ones, owning the brand and driving the brand. So that's a really great way to put it. And I think it's safe to say the nutrition and wellness landscape is rapidly evolving. So how does the FourFactors system incorporate innovation, possibly in unexpected ways, to really assist your clients in reaching their goals?
Well, you can say almost like a side effect is that when we work with innovation in the FourFactors brand acceleration system, in the innovation life cycle, looking at what are the trends, where are the trends in the life cycle, where are you in your category, where is your brand, etc. What then also comes in is the understanding of what's your corporate culture. So suddenly you start to realize, and we realized over the years, that the corporate culture in a way corresponds to the brand you have and where you play in the marketplace. So that has become sort of growing understanding that the success factor for a company is not just the way they sort of market their brand, it's also the way they understand their culture. So let's say a science-driven company, they are very sort of focused on rationality, science. And then sort of more like a lifestyle brand, they are much more passionate. They are believers, almost like they believe in religion. So it's not about rationality, because you believe you can walk on water. Then if you move into the early adopter brands, there you move into the brands that are really sort of driven by marketing plans. They need to sort of take your market share. And I used to describe them, they have PowerPoint presentations. It's about sort of doing things in the right order, and you get things right. And then finally, the late mass market brands, the bigger, older corporations, they are now so detailed. So they're basically run by Excel sheets. So everything is in the right place and you can't change anything. So when you then work with a company that's driven by an Excel sheet and you talk about innovation in an earlier stage, then you very often end up in the answer, yes, but we have not done that before. Yes, but we did it once, but it didn't work. So the culture is like a side effect of this. And it's so important now, for example, when we are working with purpose-driven brands, those brands that really want to change the world, that then it's about creating a movement that starts within the company, with the owner, the board, the management. So it's a cultural thing when you create a brand. And so yes, the side effect or the unexpected output is the culture, the purpose, and the understanding of the corporate culture, because that can actually make or break the good innovation.
Exactly. And I'm sure you come across all sorts of company cultures in this industry. And, a lot of them can be resistant to change. But if you really want to evolve and have new innovation, you have to just adapt. And I know in my experience, challenges often fuel innovation. So, can you share a case with us where financial constraints, such as those related to media spend, spurred creative solutions that have elevated the success of your clients?
Well, I could actually go back to the company I mentioned before, Oatly, when we worked with them to create their, let's say, to reposition their brand or to create their brand 10, 11 years ago now. They had then a quite traditional retail strategy in Sweden and in some other sort of, let's say, which was their home market. And the retail strategy, of course, means that you need to have a marketing budget to create the demand in the, let's say, the pull in the supermarkets. But once you start to look at exporting, then as a small company, you cannot afford a big media budget in Germany or in UK or in US. It's just impossible. So to understand that restriction meant that you need to understand how do we then go about creating market success for a new brand like Oatly. And the understanding was very clearly that, yes, we needed to start by bonding with the communities, the people that would actually love our brand, so that you first create a strong following for your brand. And we identified, for example, like vegans, you identified people, let's say, and those flocked in the coffee shops. So then to understand that, yes, we needed then to secure the communities. We need to secure coffee shops as the first distribution channel. And also then realizing that in this, it would be dangerous to go to retail too early. Because if you went to retail, and unfortunately, I see this time and time again, and we give this warning to all our startup clients, do not go to retail. But very often they're driven by the expectations of investors that wants quick output or high volumes. So they jump to retail too quickly, and the retail can sometimes be very sort of tempted to bring in something new and exciting. But then they just fold their arms and say, well, you're not creating any demand. So now you're out of it. So it's, you can say, so not having enough money can actually be a virtue for a new brand, because you need to start by creating your loyal community of followers. So that was a strategy that was then evolved by Oatly, and also the fact that we then looked at, we called an urban blitz. Instead of looking at sort of countries, we looked at sort of urban areas. Basically, don't even think London, think a part of London. So you take things, basically eat the elephant bit by bit and secure your loyal consumers as you go. So and that's a way to grow in a solid way.
This episode is brought to you by NutraPayments.com. If your business needs credit card processing that fully integrates with most major Nutra software platforms, offers the lowest industry prices, and has built-in features like recurring billing, $0 trials, and chargeback prevention, then visit us at NutraPayments.com for a free online quote. Something we talk about, I think, pretty much every episode is all of the rules and regulations that have to be followed. So adapting to these changing regulations can be a constant challenge. How does the FourFactors system keep your clients ahead of the curve while ensuring their brands align with all of these evolving standards?
Well, the challenge so many clients face in the area of nutrition, for example, in functionality, is regulations. And very often they are blocking themselves by thinking of what are the health claims that we are allowed to make. And again, they're thinking about rational claims. So what we then do is that you lead them into the 4 factors that helps them understand what we then call the 3 levels of benefits. If you think of the 4 factors, the factor of understand the benefit. And then, of course, you have the storytelling. We know you can already, without having a claim, you can actually work with storytelling around the ingredient, nice anecdotal facts, etc. And lots of consumers love that kind of stories. And then on the benefit side, we have what you call benefit laddering. So to understand the benefit, well, you have a functional, rational benefit, that is sort of what happens in your body when you eat this. But then you have an intellectual benefit, basically how do you tell a friend of yours how this works? So starting the storytelling. And then on top of this, you have the emotional benefit, which basically, what does it make you feel? And then in your brand communication, you can then actually ladder these. You can use these layers for the brand. So, for example, if you see an advertising for Red Bull that has sort of contains some caffeine and guarana and other stuff that actually raises your energy levels. Intellectually, you can actually say, yes, it contains these things. This makes you stay awake. That's great. I'll take that. But then if you look at advertising, they have something that Red Bull gives you wings.
Mm-hmm. So
it's like they're touching on an emotional level, playful. And if you look at other successful brands in the area, you see that when they are successful, they're actually on an emotional level. So it is to understand that, yes, there's more than claims. I mean, there are sort of, if we have sort of 12 different sort of points in the 4 factors model, the claim is only 1 out of 12 that you can work with in the communication and positioning. So it is actually to lead a team into that understanding, so that, and the good thing is you need to have like this cross-functional team. So you have the scientist or the R&D people, you have the regulatory person, you have marketing and sometimes sales and others, so that you can actually align on the understanding of these different levels, so that you don't get the terror of a silo organization, where you then have a nice workshop, create a lovely positioning, and then you go to the regulatory person who says no. And then you go to the scientist who says, oh, no. And then you go to the salespeople who says, no, no. And then suddenly they will all add their little changes to this. So once you pass all these silos, you come out with some kind of Frankenstein. And then it's passed by everyone. So you have a tick in all the boxes. Then you can launch it. And then it fails. So we have done a number of failure analyses of big companies, big failures. And the reason of the failures, they've all gone through that sort of those silos, get all the tick boxes. Yes, everyone has ticked it off, and it goes totally wrong. So it is that alignment and the understanding of the rational, the emotional, the intellectual, how that comes together for the consumer. I mean, because just like you, Bethany, all those things are part of your personality. You're not just a functional person or an intellectual or an emotional. All those levels exist at the same time.
Right, absolutely. And I think when people see brands or advertisements, they just think marketing, but there's so many other areas and departments that play into that. And I think just aligning those from the start, like you said, is really important, so that you're not going back and forth, or you're really excited about something and then someone tells you no. So I think just aligning all of that in the beginning is really great advice. And so talking about your clients, could you walk us through the journey a client typically takes with the healthy marketing team, highlighting how the 4-factors system plays a pivotal role in their success?
Well, you can say it's almost like 2 different ways. One is when it's in the background, one is when it's in the forefront. That you can have a company that comes to us with a challenge for their brand. They want to sort of sharpen their positioning, or they want to sort of create more like a growth platform. And then we sort of take them through the journey, which basically is a number of steps. The first, discovery, where we find out all the facts that needs to be, and then we move into the co-creation, where we bring them into the, let's say, the FourFactors system. And we have a number of workshops with the client where we're looking at sort of what are the trends, where are you playing, where do you want to go, how to get there, etc. So very much road mapping with the whole team. And it's a step-by-step decision-making. So everyone's sort of holding the hands through this navigation system, and then usually coming up with a very clear brand proposition that everyone can stand up behind, or a brand positioning blueprint. And that means that we have worked with the FourFactors in the background, just like a mechanic fixes a car and then out again. The FourFactor doesn't follow. But then sometimes with business-to-business companies, then we are sort of training them on the FourFactors and how to sort of use that in their business-to-business to consumer activity. So co-creation with their customers using the FourFactors very openly. So we even sort of have sort of FourFactors installed in one of our clients' innovation centers in Singapore, where they can actually use this. And we also then designed an innovation center in Europe, in Paris, for another big client, where the FourFactors is a little bit in the background, but it creates the structure for an innovation center, a consumer-centric innovation center. So you can say, and then of course we're also doing trainings that we've done sometimes with government bodies or functional food clusters, where we take small and, let's say, entrepreneurs and small and medium-sized companies through the FourFactors training as a way to give them a toolbox they can apply when they then fly off. So in that way, yes, the FourFactors are either used like the wrench of the mechanic to fix a car and away you go, or it's a toolbox that we actually apply and sort of almost like give the client. And in that, we also have sort of set up a FourFactors Academy online. So you can actually just find the FourFactors Academy online and go in there, and you'll meet me, and there's a couple of training sessions. And we give you sort of let's say, the basic understanding of the FourFactors.
That's great. I always love educational resources. And I think it's great also that you can kind of tailor the FourFactors for the needs of the various brands. And, the healthy marketing team is really all about targeted consumer-centric brands. So how do you maintain this focus on excellence as you expand your reach and work with clients across all of these diverse categories and even, as you mentioned, different continents?
Let's say our luck is the fact that my company has always attracted talents. And already from the start, we work closely with universities. On the one side, we attract talents like sort of senior marketeers that comes to us with the experience from, let's say, from FMCG background. So they come with a very structured competence in marketing. Then the other side is that we are then sort of working together with a couple of master courses. Both masters in food and health innovation management at the University of the Netherlands, and we're working together with a master course in applied cultural analysis, behavioral science in a university in Sweden. And then we get some master students coming to us doing their internship. And we've then been so fortunate to then sort of be able to keep some of these talented master students who then come from different countries. So we have in our team, we have sort of people from China, from Netherlands, from Thailand, and so all over the place. And that gives us, at the same time, we work with clients from different countries. We then, in our team, we have people from different countries and cultures. And most of them actually have a master's degree in nutrition and science, and then coupled with marketing competence. So we have sort of quite grounded in that. And then we also have quite a lot of cooperations with conference and expo organizers. So we are also content providers for big conferences across the globe. And so it means that we are constantly doing consumer research on our tools. So trying to always, on the FourFactors brand acceleration system, expanding the understanding of the consumer. So last year, we did quite a lot of research, for example, on consumer narratives related to mental well-being. How do you actually sort of connect to consumers on that? We've done sort of reports and research in the area of sports nutrition, and we're looking into the plant-based. We're looking at sort of how do you enter the mass market, looking at triggers and barriers. So always looking at what's relevant, what's hot for our clients, and where can we do research that helps to deepen ours and their understanding of how to be successful out there with health, nutrition, and wellness. So in that sense, we are in a way curious and research focused all the time to stay sort of at the front.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk about the future of HMT a bit. So looking forward, what exciting developments or projects are on the horizon that you can share? And what's your future vision for the Healthy Marketing team?
Well, at the moment, we are right now when we speak, we have sort of a team in US working with, let's say, working with the launch of a plant-based brand in the US. We have sort of a team now also set up to work with a client. We have a couple of projects with China, and at the same time we have a couple of projects in the middle, so in Europe. And so what I see now is actually sort of that we could consolidate the next step for the health marketing team. Could be on one side that we sort of try to create sort of HMT units in different parts of the world. Today we have one hub, and that's one. So let's say expansion, because we see that we have a very solid model, solid sort of reputation, and it's easy to train good people on this. So that's one side. The other one is that we have grown the business model a little. So instead of, let's say, just being brand strategy consultants, we have, let's say, on customer demand, also then gradually added on the creative services. So now today we have sort of the full capability to take a client from consumer trends to brand design. So that is also let's say, the second dimension on how to sort of what the future looks like. So adding a bit more competence and tools there to really help our clients win in the marketplace.
Yes, that's very exciting. So once again, thank you for joining us today, Peter. And as we wrap up our enlightening conversation that we've had, we've really embarked on a journey into the heart of innovation and consumer-centric branding in the nutrition and wellness arena. You can explore the world of the Healthy Marketing team further through the links that are provided in the show notes, and stay tuned for more thought-provoking discussions. You can join us on social media as we continue to uncover the evolving landscape of nutraceutical innovations. Until our next episode, stay curious and committed to shaping the future of nutrition and wellness.